Hello, everyone. Dave Landry here from DaveLandry.com. This is Trading Simplified. Well, you've probably been wondering, where's Big Dave? Well, Big Dave had COVID, and not like, oh, I couldn't smell nothing and taste anything for a day or two, and I was a little tired. I had full blown COVID. After 10 days, I actually ended up in the ER. My blood oxygen was getting kind of low, and also I was a little dehydrated. So luckily, I was treated and released, and I am doing great now. A little tired here and there. Can't do exactly everything I used to do just yet, but I'm getting there. I chopped down a tree and it nearly killed me. But it's got me thinking. In case I get hit by a beer truck or some virus takes over, here's how I do it, and so can you. Pretty much a follow up from the last presentation I did about a month and a half or 2 months ago. So what are we talking about? Well, so I have some post-COVID revelations. And again, if I could do it, so can you. My core methodology is really, really simple. And that's where the bread and butter is. And in fact, doing this presentation kind of made me wonder whether or not I should be chasing a lot of the rabbits that I'm chasing. But as a trader, I do like to experiment in a lot of the markets. And I'm going to touch upon that in just 1 second. With a lot of other methodologies too. But mostly, I try to focus as much as possible in the core methodology. And I'm going to talk about that in a few minutes. I want to talk about establishing free positions, and I think that's a secret to trading. I'm going to use a recent, or the last, I should say, mystery chart as a follow-up, and I want to talk about some of my free positions. That'll make a lot of sense when we get to them. By the way, housekeeping, I do take requests. StockCharts is working toward getting live again, but if you can start sending in requests, and I could either make them part of these recorded shows, or when we go live over the next week or two or so, I'll be happy to address them then. If you need to reach me, DaveLandry.com/contact. If you would like the slides from this presentation, along with a bunch of other stuff to keep you busy for a very long time, including all 3 of my books for free, get to know me for free. And if you like what you see, then graduate to become a gold member where you have the courses. And then, of course, I'd love to see you on the trading service. And that's where I would say 99% of all the mystery charts come from. Or in fact, I think so far all the mystery charts have come straight from my trading service before they triggered. And I'll show you them, as you know, before they trigger. Anyway, DaveLandry.com/StockCharts for a lot of information. Now, I want to talk about COVID a little bit, or post-COVID more specifically, before we hop into the charts, and a little bit about how it's affected my life and trading. You hear about these people who have some sort of horrible disease, and then they say afterwards that it's the best thing that ever happened to them. Well, it's a little too fresh in my mind to say that just yet, but I can tell you so far, I've been on fire lately, both in life and in trading. I'm doing things that I've been wanting to do for years. I'm building an incredible desk, at least I think it's going to be incredible, in my office. I'm putting in 4 new monitors and a trade station, a serious trade station to drive it all. And I'm pretty excited about the whole thing. The other thing that's kind of interesting is I've had zero tolerance for BS right now. And the thing about COVID is it really, at least in my case, it's a psychological disease while you have it. And then it kind of affects your brain afterwards. Like right now, I am having a harder time than usual focusing. I've always been a little ADD, but right now I'm really ADD. And so I've been working to get some people to help me do some things like my slides and some of the work that I do that kind of distracts me a lot from things such as content and trading. But one thing that's come up is zero tolerance for BS. And I had someone where I was trying to help them. They said they were serious, and I gave them a bunch of stuff and all, and then they didn't even bother looking at it. And I said, you know what? From now on, I'm no longer going to do that. I was telling my wife, complaining to her, and she said, Dave, if they're serious, they'll come to you when you're ready. Don't try to force them to be ready. And that makes a lot of sense. So if you're serious, I'll put you to work. Otherwise, call me when you're ready. And the other thing too is, like, I'll help people forever, and it's like they really don't want to be traders. You know, they just want to kind of noodle around with a little bit. When they're serious, let me know. Anyway, a couple of Sundays ago, probably about a month ago, I guess, I've kind of lost track of time with this whole COVID thing. It's like time kind of did a quantum leap forward. But I decided to sit down one Sunday morning and figure out altcoins, or as us traders refer to them, S coins. And these are the thinner, less capitalized crypto coins, such as, I guess, Link would be one, and Uni, and there's a Mana. There's a ton of these things out there, and I've been having an absolute blast with them. And I did incredibly well. I printed money with them. I just caught it just right, which is the very dangerous thing to do, by the way, in trading. If you hit the methodology or the market just right, you think you're a god. And I kind of felt that way for a while, and I was spending a lot of time on the weekends trading these altcoins. And I've since settled down a little bit with them, and it's in trading them more like the core methodology. But I'll have a lot to say about that in the future. But it's something that I'm really excited about, and I've been talking with David Keller and some people behind the scenes, such as Grayson, and they're going to work to get you guys more and more of these altcoins. So stay tuned for future presentations, and I'll show you how I trade these altcoins pretty much exactly like I trade stocks and everything I've been showing you up until now, with a few caveats. Every now and then you get into a runaway momentum market, and in that case, you're just trading pure relative strength and buying the new highs. And I'll show you all of these things in coming presentations, especially as StockCharts adds more and more of these altcoins. Now, along the lines of psychology, one thing that I've really been cognizant of lately, now, along the lines of COVID and the psychological effects that it's had on me, and from a positive standpoint, I found that this is kind of along the lines of the zero tolerance for BS. It's zero tolerance for BS with myself. Obviously, you can't travel in time and go back and undo stupid trades, right? But what you can do is on each and every trade, will this trade make future Dave mad at present Dave? Now, this doesn't mean that I no longer do stupid stuff, but I find myself doing a little bit less stuff. And the other thing that it's done for me is make me really cognizant of stupid stuff. So when I get mad because I did a stupid trade, I go back and say, well, Dave, I don't want to cause future angst for myself on this next trade, so maybe I better not take it. And, this has really kind of woken me up. Like earlier today, I had a trade in one particular market. It went really well. It was an intraday trade. And I was pretty proud of myself banking the profits, and got there's about a couple hours left before the close. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go in and try to make some more money in that market. And then I caught myself saying, you're just anxious because you're kind of lottery rich with that little bit of money you made, and you're anxious to spend it and throw it away on a possible mediocre trade. So at the end of the day, if I still have the money I made, I'm going to feel pretty good. But if I go in, make another trade, and lose on that trade, or worse, lose all the money I made, then I'm going to be mad at future Dave is going to be mad at present Dave. So hopefully that makes sense. I think this is a complete presentation just in and of that, and I'm going to work on that too in the future. The other thing that's kind of woken me up to is trade the risk, not my loss tolerance. Now, sometimes you go in, for instance, let's say you go in and you want to trade GME, which I recommend you don't do, and I've done it way too much, truth be told. But if you go in and try to trade GME and you're not going to use, let's say you're going to try to use a 2-point stop or a 5-point stop or even a 10-point stop, I can almost all but guarantee you're going to get stopped out. That crazy stock might take 20 or 30 points or more when it comes to a stop. Same thing goes for E-minis. You can't just go in and say, oh, I'm just going to go into E-minis and try to take a point risk or whatever. More often than not, you're going to get stopped out. And again, that's something that I think can really be fleshed out in a lot of details. And again, I think that could be a presentation in and of itself. Now, the other thing I've been thinking about a lot is profit centers. Now, Linda Rasky in Trading Sardines, she said when somebody comes to her with some sort of methodology or something, she goes, well, let's model it out. Let's noodle with a little bit. And if it's something that's viable, it could be a possible profit center. So I have my core methodology, and I'm not giving that up. These are just some ancillary things to do. In some cases, they work really, really well. And in other cases, maybe like the altcoins or some of these other things I'm going to talk about, maybe E-minis, it could actually be a distraction. So I'm going to have to kind of juggle that and figure it out. But the core methodology is obviously what we talk about most about here. We do occasionally talk about IPOs, and I kind of lump the IPOs in with the core methodology. For instance, I'm going to show you one or two examples in a few minutes that are IPOs, and they fit the core methodology. And if you go in and watch the prior stock chart shows, which you'll get a link if you go to davelandry.com/stockcharts. You'll see that in some of the shows I talk about IPOs. Now, gamma scalping, that's a little bit more advanced, but I've been looking a lot at these weekly options, and that'll probably never make it to a Trading Simplified show unless I could find a reason where I could kind of simplify it and work on it. So I'm working on that. Gamma scalping, you're basically looking at these short dated options that have the potential to make a very big move. And they're kind of lottery tickets. But the other thing I've been doing with them is protecting positions, like go in and buy a put on something that's wild and crazy that only has, like, let's say 1 day left or actually on expiration. And then that allows me to go in and trade that stock and give it a 20-point stop or whatever it takes and not worry about it because I protected it with a put. Again, a little bit more advanced. If I could break it down and make it fit Trading Simplified, or simplify it to where it fits this show, I'll certainly do it. Altcoins we talked about. As soon as StockCharts gets more and more of those, and as soon as I wrap my head around everything, I'll have more to say about that. E-minis. Jury's still out on E-minis. I'm not a fantastic E-mini trader. Sometimes I win a lot, sometimes I lose a lot, and then somewhere in between I get chewed up a lot. Opening gap reversals or ogres, I think I've touched upon those before. If you're a gold member of my website, you go into Q&A, I discuss that a lot. In fact, I discuss it so much, you're probably thinking that all I do is trade these opening gap reversals. The reason is they require a lot. They're not as cut and dry as the core methodology and some of the things I'm going to show you in just 1 second, like TKOs. Girlfriends or boyfriends, whatever you're into, and if you're into both, I guess you're greedy, or just stocks that you know well or seem to have a feel for. I have a friend of mine who's also a client, and when Boeing was absolutely crazy, when this COVID thing first hit, he would go in and scalp religiously $500, $1,000, $1,500, $2,000 a day over and over and over again. Now, unfortunately, it kind of ended badly when he got out of sync with the stock, and that's the thing that's a little dangerous with stocks like this. Right now, I'm kind of in sync with Riot and Mara, M-A-R-A, and those two stocks obviously trade with the Bitcoin and the altcoins, and when I see the altcoins taking off, I go in and do some intraday trading with those. And I'm hoping at some point that could possibly become a profit center, and then possibly others. By the way, I talked a lot more about profit centers in last week's Dave Landry's The Week in Charts. That's the first live presentation I did post-COVID. So check that out. You can find that on my website. And if it's not on the homepage, click on More Content and Information, and it's in there. You can also subscribe to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/C/Dave Landry, and you'll get the Week in Charts as they update. All right. I want to talk about the mystery chart. In fact, it's just one this week, and the methodology in action. I want to follow up on a mystery chart, which makes for a really good example. So in case I get hit by a beer truck, my goal is to show you simple, easy to recognize patterns, where to get in, where to place a protective stop, where to take partial profits for a free position, and believe me, that's where the money is. I'm going to show you that in just 1 second, and guidelines for trailing a stop higher for the potential for a home run. Now that's a part of the money management shows, but I could maybe give you a few hints and tips and tricks today. And a lot of trading psychology so that you could simply, follow the plan. Now, as you know, I've get heavily into psychology for a while, then we come back to the core methodology and sometimes these ancillary things. But I can promise you that more and more I'll come back to psychology, because the methodology is really pretty simple. I never said it was easy, but it's really pretty simple. And if you could wrap your head around all the things I'm talking about, then you just got to figure out how you're going to go in and trade it. And, the best thing you could probably do is just trade at such a small size it's almost meaningless, and prove it to yourself over, let's say, 6 or 8 months or even longer that it actually works. And there's some good times and bad times, believe me, and wrap your head around things. Now, let's break all that down. So in case you get hit by a beer truck, simple, easy to recognize patterns, okay? That is an obvious uptrend. This was in my trading service for yesterday, or Monday, I should say, and it was in an obvious trend. Notice it begins to pull back and makes a TKO, which we did a whole show just on that pattern. Easy, simple pattern to recognize. Now, the great thing about TKOs is you pretty much get in right above the high and a stop goes pretty much below the low if it's wide enough like this one is. And you can see this is straight from my trading service. This was what I recommended for Monday. And MESA 1350, 1050, 3 points risk with an IPT of 1650. Okay, and this is what it looks like on the chart: 1350, 1050, IPT up here at 1650. 3 points, 3 points risk, 3 points initial profit target. You can see it triggered on Monday, and knock on wood, so far today, it's doing pretty good on its way, so far at least, to that initial profit target. Now, I always say there's no secret to trading, and every now and then I think of something that maybe really is a secret to trading, and that is free positions. And if you can establish enough free positions that have the potential to turn into home runs, you're going to do incredibly well. Now, we've been on a pretty good roll for quite a while. Knock on wood. I can't guarantee you that it'll always be this good. In fact, and I'm probably jinxing myself, but if you go in and look at all the mystery charts since I first started this Trading Simplified show, I think you're going to be pretty amazed. Every now and then we have a stinker in there, right? Okay, if I was right on every trade, you'd never see my fat arse again, believe me. But for the most part, I've been pretty amazed at how well the methodology has been doing since I've been showing it here in Trading Simplified. Now, a few years back, I was guest of honor at Charlie Kirk's Traders Retreat down in St. Lucia. And when I was talking about free positions and my money management, he called it free rolling. And I kind of like that idea. It's like free rolling to where you have the potential to really do well. And I hate to use the term playing with the market's money, but if you can kind of close your eyes once you get your initial profit target out and just let that stop take you out, you could do really well. So this was the last mystery chart I showed way back before I contracted COVID. And you could see it was in a really nice uptrend, pulled back kind of deeply. And the parameters are down below. Entry at 489. A stop down below. And 1 point risk. So 1 point plus 489, 589 initial profit target as you see above. And all of those are down here in the chart below, as you can see. It was a pullback, and I don't think this particular one was a TKO. I think it was a TKO when I first showed it, maybe on this day here, okay? And that's why you have TKO in that. But it was a TKO kind of within a pullback. So it triggers, and it actually performed fairly well. Within, a week and a half or so, it hit the initial profit target. So at that point, we sell half. And if you want to follow up on this, go in and watch the money management shows that we've done. And you can find those, if you go to dayliner.com/StockCharts, you'll get a link to all of those shows. Or again, you can go to YouTube. You can go to the StockCharts YouTube channel or StockCharts TV. Now, once we hit that initial profit target, we bump the stop up to break even. So barring overnight gaps, the worst that could happen, and this is a live trade, I am currently long this stock, is that we break even. You can see that it did kind of stall out a little bit, but it didn't stop us out. Remember a few minutes ago I said, hey, just close your eyes, let that stop take you out. Well, in the case like this, a week and a half or 2 weeks of this stock trading lower, from a psychological standpoint, you're probably thinking, maybe I better just bail out. But no, follow the methodology, follow the money management. Now, it hasn't set the world on fire yet, and maybe we do stop out of this for a small gain or a scratch, but at least we have the potential for something really wonderful to happen. I'm going to show you something really wonderful here in just 1 second. So let's look at some more of my free rolling. And believe me, this is where the money is. All those other profit centers and all, a lot of that's kind of S&G trading. And again, I've got to be really careful with that. But as I flesh it out, hopefully I'll get it to a point where it truly is a profit center, providing some ancillary, and I hate to use the word income, because trading, there's really no income from trading. There's capital gains. If you're expecting the market to pay for your groceries or your rent, you're going to be a little disappointed. But if you're looking to get capital gains and then take those capital gains and do something with them, then trading, my methodology at least, the longer term trend following might be for you. And the other thing that obviously I'm doing is I'm getting in for the swing trade and sticking around as long as it works. And I'll show you a few of those right now. So this is why I get up early and come to work every day. I get up every morning at 4:55. I like that life coach or whatever that coaches people, transitions them into being parents. He's up there. He said, if you put enough directions to get here, you're in the right place. If you got up early, no, wait, what is it? You got up early. No one cares. So I got to stop telling people that. So this was the recommendation a while back, and here's my actual trades from one account. I have one account that I keep right around about 100K or so. I'll take a little out and put into like a slush fund, and then when the account gets sometimes it dips below 100K, and when it gets nicely above 100K, I'll take some out again, just so I could have a model account to show, and it makes it really easy to trade nice round numbers. But anyway, there's the trades based on that. And you can see down below, based on an account size of 100K, 2%, $2,000 risk. You would buy 741 shares. I usually just round that up. So 800 shares, 400 at the profit target. And then I ended up scaling out of a few shares on this one just because I had so much profit. And I'll show you it right now. So this is the entry. This is the stop, exactly as I laid out in the plan. And by the way, I'm not going to say it's completely easy, but it's much, much easier for me to follow that trading plan than it is for me to do a lot of the trading that I do outside of my core methodology, because I lay it out every night because I know my clients expect me to give them an entry, give them a stop, give them an initial profit target, and then tell them every day how to trail a stop and some other thoughts on the stock itself and the market. So I do all that, and all that planning is done, and all I have to do is follow along. I know all you have to do. It's a lot easier said than done. But anyway, this was the actual trade. You can see it triggered and really kind of died out and didn't do a whole lot, but then it began to rally. It gets up to break even. We take partial profits, and you can see up around 25. I did take a little bit more profits. If memory serves, it was on that day when it was really kind of blasting higher, and I forget exactly how I did it. I might have put in a trailing stop or something. That's what I like to do, to take off a few shares in automated trailing stop. And you can see just yesterday it was banging out some new highs. So what we're going to do is begin to raise that trailing stop once again. When the stock goes sideways or lower, we leave the stop where it is, but then we begin to raise it as the stop moves more and more in our favor. So let's take a look at CPE, and those are the parameters there: entry, stop, and initial profit target. This is another one in the service. And you can see that it took off nicely, consolidated for a while after it hit the initial profit target right here. And you know what? When it went sideways, I'd be willing to bet a lot of people got bored with it and exited it. And if this wasn't in my trading service, I probably would have gotten out too, because I would have been bored with it. But anytime I felt those temptations, I just said, well, it seems like I'm giving up a lot of open profits to this thing. It seems like dead money. But what am I telling my people to do? Well, I'm just saying honor your stop and just leave it where it is. And luckily, fortunately, it's almost tripled since it's made that nice little base. You can see we've trailed that stop higher over time. Now here's another one that's in the trading service. And you can go back and look. If you go to davelandry.com/archives, you could see all of these trades that I show here. And I would probably say almost all of the mystery charts that I show. In fact, I don't think there's any mystery charts that I haven't shown to my people in my trading service first that I've shown in these presentations. But you can see APG, entry, stop, initial profit target, and then we trail that stop again. We get up to break even. Nothing happened for a while, but that's okay. It begins to take off again, and then we begin trailing that stop once again. Now, earlier I said I would talk a little bit about trailing stops. You're a little bit one for one before you get to the initial profit target, meaning that if the stock goes up a point, you bring the stop up a point. In more recent times, I've been a little bit more liberal. Like that Mesa trade, for instance, rallied on Monday. I left the stop where it was. Years ago, if it went up 50 cents, I'd bring that stop up 50 cents. But today, knock on wood, if the rally holds, then we'll probably bump up the stop, begin trailing that stop higher. There's two things you can do with the trailing stop, and I think I've talked about these before. One is I call keep the change. So if it goes up a few cents, don't bother moving your stop. And a few cents here and a few cents there begins to add up over time, and that stop kind of widens out. And what you're doing is you're making the transition from the swing trade, which has fairly low risk, fairly be the key word in that sentence, because bad things can still happen, to the longer term trade, which has a lot of risk. But if you're free rolling by taking that money off, okay, and you have a free position, so to speak, then all you're giving up, and I know it's still painful, but all you're giving up is open profits. And worst case scenario, barring overnight gaps, at least you made a little bit of money on the trade. So go in and watch the money management shows. And I have a complete money management module on my website, but unfortunately that's behind a firewall. So you'd have to be a Gold member to access that. Here's another one, CLB. And by the way, again, if you want to go in and look at these trades and see exactly what I was thinking back on December 30th when I first saw this one of last year, go to davelandry.com/archives and click on December. It would be the day before. So December 29th would be for the service for the 30th. I do it the night before. But there's your entry, there's your stop, there's your initial profit target. And again, didn't do a whole lot, but it did luckily hit that initial profit target. And it almost stopped us out on the remainder, but fortunately did not. And so far, so good. We're having a pretty good run in that one, too. Now, I would encourage you, if you want to interact with other traders, I would encourage you to join my Facebook group, but you do have to be a Gold member of davelandry.com. And by being a Gold member, you're able to go through all the courses and get up to speed. And the beauty of the Facebook group is, for years I had a one-on-one business model where I answered everybody directly, and I thought that was a really good thing and really kind of me. And then I realized in doing so, a lot of times people actually weren't getting the true message. So I've kind of transitioned over to one-to-many models. If you have a burning question, fine, shoot me an email. It's just hard for me to keep up if it's one email after another 3 or 4 a day or whatever the case may be. But the great thing about the Facebook group is by the time I get around to answering the question there, a lot of these other traders who are really good, some are better than me, I have to admit, are able to answer that question. So it's been a wonderful thing. I never dreamed that this Facebook group would have a life of its own. You can ask for help while you're there. And a lot of times I'll go in and show things like opening gap reversals and especially some of these profit centers that I'm working on there. Well, I want to thank everybody for watching. If you have any other follow-up questions, again, davelandry.com/contact. If you want a lot of follow-up information, go to davelandry.com/StockCharts. If you have some burning questions that you'd like me to cover in upcoming shows, I'd be more than happy to do it. In fact, I'm looking for content. I come in every week. I'm like, what am I going to talk about? I mean, I have a lot of things that I want to get to eventually, but each week it's kind of like I'm kind of start with a blank screen and try to figure out what I'm going to do. So I want to thank all you guys and girls for watching, and may the trend be with you.
Hey guys, Dave Keller here with StockCharts.com. Thanks so much for watching our video. If you enjoyed it, and we hope you did, hit the like button right below. Also, we have so much new content every day. Consider subscribing to the channel. Just hit the subscribe button in the video or right below. Thanks for watching. Stay safe. Have a fantastic day.